catch you slipping up. Don't catch you slipping up. Look what I'm whipping up. Look how I'm geeking out. I'm so fitted. I'm a Gucci. I'm so pretty.
Good evening and welcome to Conversations with Taz. I am your host, Taz. Tonight we're going to be talking about death in America, policing in the United States, and this is going to be a twofold concept. We're going to start off talking about what the ideal police department would look like, and then we're going to go deep into a current case that is under police investigation and get into some details. This is your trigger warning for the second half of the show, and also let you know what you can do to help and what you can do to be mindful coming into the future. But without further delay, let me bring on my guests. Good evening, and thank you for joining me tonight. If you all wouldn't mind
Hello.
introducing yourselves, let's start ladies first.
Hello, everybody. I am Jillian. I'm great. I'm going to talk to y'all.
And now we end with the gentleman, Chili Bean.
Good evening. My name's Cass. So I'm wonderful. Hanging out here in Florida waiting on this hurricane. So
At the hurricane. But like I explained to you all and everyone else, tonight's going to be a dual show. We're going to start off talking about what an ideal police department will look like, and then we're going to get into the case that I know you were very active in, Cass. So let's just dive right on into it. In what you know, and we're all we're not exactly spring chickens, but it's okay. I know when I was younger, there were actual community officers walking around. Me personally, I think that they should bring them back. But what do you feel will increase community policing to actually keep people safe? Go ahead, Jelly Bean. Go ahead, Jelly Bean.
I like the community policing. I feel so. I live in East Westwood, so it's a lot of drama, a lot of crime over here. There is not one see on a daily basis that is out here to make the connection with the people. In order for people to respect you and to understand that your authority is a positive instead of a negative, you have to be around. And I see pretty much a brand new officer every day. I think that would help a lot. Put people in our neighborhood, the same person. You know what I'm saying? And they need to be active. Don't just drive by, stop, buy the kids a bag of chips. You know, talk to the guys on the block. Like, let them know that you're not here just as a threat. Like, I'm here for you guys. I'm here to protect you guys. But don't get it twisted. I'm not going to let you do no fuck shit in front of me neither. But
Yeah.
we don't have that.
Very, very good point.
I like it. So I can only speak for where I've been living. I think there's a lot of things we could do to aid in the image of police and what community policing would look like. I hope you can hear me all right. One of the first things that I would say off gate would be a community review board that is not seated with anyone who is in local political power, like no city council. They need to be elected by the community. Ideally, it would be a well-balanced and equal representation from each part of the community. So what would that look like? In my opinion, I think you would need people from different districts. So whatever your districts are, you have a set amount of representatives on that community review board who are, once again, elected by the people in the community. And they are able to access police body camera within 24 hours unedited. I would like, for every police officer to have to maintain a license similar to insurance. So that, like the same way that a doctor or a nurse has a license to practice, I would hope that an officer has a license to police. The reason that would be important is because, as similar to car insurance, if you have an issue with an officer, say it's an abuse of power, or like a complaint or anything placed against them, that they have essentially their insurance would go up once it's investigated. And obviously, the community review board would be a part of that investigation as well, because see, the community has more eyes on the ground. The community has the ability to see what's going on firsthand before it gets written into a report. No one likes doing paperwork, so a lot of things often get left out of that paperwork. So it's similar to having car insurance. If you get in an accident or an officer is accused of a crime, or they're accused of their abuse of power or excessive force, their insurance would go up. And so that would be a motivator for these officers to act correctly. I think that officers should also have some other responsibilities. When I was growing up, a lot of times in the low income areas, this is just a singular example. A lot of the sidewalks would be overgrown. And as you know, in low income areas, people tend to have less vehicles. They use more public transportation, which means you and your children are walking to and from wherever you need to be down these sidewalks. Of course, there will always be crime, but I think that an officer should have the ability to go into the community and say, look, these trees on 39th Street are overgrown. These bushes are overgrown. There's no sidewalk. There's plenty of places for people to hide who could cause you harm. There's plenty of places for people to hide to do illegal activities. So an officer not only needs to be on foot in the community that he's policing, or in the district, or in the area that they are, asked to police, but they need to be on foot looking for what could make the community better. And they need to have the ability to call the city utility and say, hey, these trees are overgrown, these bushes are overgrown. We need to get somebody out here today or tomorrow to cut it all back. And that's where the city is failing in so many different places, because you have these, what I would like to consider, and hopefully one day it will be, these ambassadors for the city. Like, the police shouldn't be an authoritarian regime. They should be ambassadors for the community and represent the community, but also be able to make the community better. So if they can come out and say, hey, you know what? The utilities are cut off on this lady's house. She needs help. We need to get her the resources that she needs and turn this water on for her. Like, they need to maintain a certain standard of life. Instead of always taking, they've got to be able to give something back. I also think that police should be subject to like a grade. So, for example, in Jacksonville, I believe the solved murder rate is somewhere around 23%. If your police department's not solving more than 23%, that's a failing grade. Then we need to go in there and we need to be able to fire them. We need to hire someone who's going to get a passing grade. None of us would get a job with grades like that. So we have to hold these public figures to the same standard and require them to perform. That's just a start on what I think it would look like. And I think from there, we would be able to find a lot of other things that we could invest in. I think we need to have counselors and social workers and responding to calls that involve mental illness. I think that we need to have more training, more school. We need to require that you have more education than a shop mechanic. Mechanics go to school for a longer period of time to work on your car than police do to go be police officers. And that's unacceptable to me. I'm simply a chef. I've done it for 20 years. And even that is not enough to get me paid a livable wage. So why some of these officers in Chicago are making $95,000 a year, they have less education than a lot of other professions, yet they're licensed to carry a gun. I also think that if you were to take away qualified immunity, that would also motivate officers to act better. An officer who has the ability to do whatever he wants will do whatever he wants. And that is unacceptable to me. It's completely unacceptable. In the same way that someone would go to a restaurant and get the wrong dinner or the wrong entree and they would complain, and it's happened many times to me before, we need to be able to publicly complain and redress our officials and their representatives. And we also need to keep religion out of politics and religion out of the police force. That's another big one. Because to me, the ideologies And the politics that fuel those ideologies or the religious ideals that fuel those ideologies are very dangerous when you're policing a community that is very, very diverse. It leads down a dangerous road. So that's just my 2 cents on what I think better policing would look like.
There are a few things that I'm glad that you brought up. First, let me touch on social workers handling wellness checks and mental health crises. And for those that don't know, I am currently a part of a group working on legislation to make that happen. Beginning this weekend, if anybody wants to join, I'll post information here on my Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok on how you can join in on the Zoom calls, and we can tell you how to do that. Additionally, you make an astounding point regarding the training. I think on top of the training, I think the police departments need to take a book out of the fire department, because I have a really good friend who is high ranking in the Cincinnati Fire Department. And he has been very, very gracious in truly explaining to me his career and everything that they go through. And they have regular classes, regular scheduled testing. They have to work out regularly and everything else, because I don't understand why you have to be physically fit to pass the academy and no other day of the week. Because if I'm in trouble and you need to run to come get me or run after my attacker, I need you to be able to do it better than I can. And I am not in the best of shape. Once I stopped coaching, I'm not going to lie to y'all, it kind of didn't really like going to the gym like that. And I look at other countries where to be a detective, you have to have a degree. Because I watch too many docu-set series and too many documentaries where murderers and rapists are still walking around because the cops didn't have the deductive reasoning and the simple comprehension to get someone. I also think that the community officers should match the demographic of the community. If it's a LGBTQIA plus heavy community, you should have LGBTQIA plus officers. If it's a native heavy community, have some native officers. Also, for a small period of time, when I did live in Cincinnati, Ohio, the Cincinnati Police Department, unfortunately, that chief is no longer with them, had a committee that I sat on to teach officers, SWAT, fire, EMTs, how to spot domestic violence within LGBTQIA plus communities. Because a lot of people would look at a same-sex relationship and arrest both people thinking it was just a fight, not realizing someone is being abused. And I'm sorry, as an IT professional, I should not be tested more. And I shouldn't have to carry liability insurance and an officer doesn't.
That's a big deal.
Because if I set up a website for you and I do anything illegal, if I break any laws, they're coming to get me. Mm-hmm. They're not going to taxpayers going, oh, well, Taz lives in this city. Let's go to the taxpayers of this city to pay you. Should I screw you over? And I am tired of police officers screwing up. And then we, the taxpayers, are paying for their screw up. Because in what other career can you screw up and someone else pays for your screw up?
And you keep your job.
Exactly. And I would also like for citizens and residents of the United States to stop worshiping officers and act as if the real world is like the movie A Bug's Life. We're not, or Ants, we're not lined up and told what job we're going to get. It is a choice. Mm-hmm. I did not become a cop because I know I cannot honestly protect and serve everyone. I can't. I cannot look at a rapist and protect him should somebody come up. I know what the laws are. I cannot honestly say that I would protect a child molester. I cannot. I am biased in that way. So guess what I did not do?
Then become an officer.
And please stop getting bullied in middle school and high school and deciding to become a cop. Mm-hmm. because that Napoleon complex is not working for anyone. If you know that you have inherent biases that you are not willing to tackle head on, do not become a cop. Because I don't need you looking at me when I call for help, but you're looking at me as if I'm the criminal because of the color of my skin. Or you talking down to me because of my gender. Are you not wanting to help me because of my sexual orientation? And with that, I would like for you all to either think of an encounter you have personally had or that someone has told you about an encounter with a police officer. And I'm talking about the worst scenario that you can fathom. And how do you think that situation could have been corrected and handled better? Jilly Bean, you want to go first?
Okay, so I've only had 2 speeding tickets and a seatbelt ticket and foster care. So I was in foster care, and my foster mom, she told the caseworker that she was not fond of me because, for one, I was mixed, and for two, my mom is white. It's neither here nor there. But within that logic, she proceeded to have an argument with me. I was 15, 16, on my way out the door. But I was on my way to go see my mother, and she proceeded to have an argument. So before I even knew it, I didn't even know. I opened up the door and I got clotheslined.
Oh my
No
God.
idea. I'm talking about like the pettiest argument. I want to say it was like I washed my clothes with too much water. Like it was like a super petty chore mistake. And at some point, she called the police, and I was just going to walk out the door because I was going to see my mother. And literally, like I got to the door, opened it up. She said something. I turned back around, and literally, his arm went across my neck. And I was just kind of confuzzled. Like, I really didn't know. Like, it really, I can't even put the words together because my 16-year-old mind was already racing because she was trying to find a reason for me not to go see my mother. And then I was also confused that she openly told the caseworker that she didn't want me in her home, and the caseworker allowed me to stay. And all that, it's just like, this officer, I'm going to say he might have, I was, so at 16, I was like 5'10", 330, all jelly. And I've never had assault charge, domestic violence, like no record. I have zero record because 2 speeding tickets and a seatbelt ticket that I acquired during the pandemic. So he pretty much just took whatever it was that she said and ran with it. He did not try to get my side of the story at all. Like, he didn't try to call a caseworker. He didn't try to call my guardian ad litem. He pretty much showed up at the door in her defense as I was trying to get away from a situation that just was not suiting me. He could have fixed that by knocking on the door and trying to talk. Like, I have no idea. I don't know if it was a family member or, you know, I left. He drove me to my mother's house. And by the time it was a weekend visit, it was a Friday, I left. By Sunday, when I was coming back, my caseworker had already packed my stuff and I was moving to a new foster home. So it all really could have been fixed if he would have knocked down the door or not assaulted a 16-year-old girl.
Did they ever address the fact that he assaulted you?
No, nope, or at least not that I know of.
And see, that goes back to the qualified immunity. They really act like this is the Wild West. And it is not. If
Yeah,
everything
because
has evolved, the police
it
department
shocked me.
needs to evolve.
Yeah, because it shocked me, and this was a pretty well-to-do foster family. Like they weren't, you know, they were taking kids for the money, but they really didn't need it. So it was unnecessary, and it very well could have went very less. You know, it went less, but it could have went very less in any other circumstance. Let me have been a 16-year-old boy.
Very true.
Oh, I just want to say first and foremost that I'm sorry that you experienced that, and I can tell very much how it's maybe it doesn't have a hold on you now, but I can tell that it very much is you're like there when you talk about it, and I'm sorry that is a reality that you've had to face, and I mean that sincerely from my heart.
I appreciate that. It made me who I am. It really has.
Well, I'm grateful that you're here for us. So I mean that because I put myself in everyone's shoes when they talk about experiences they've had, and I can't imagine what would be going through a 16-year-old's mind. Like, how can you avoid fight or flight? How can you avoid that at that time? And how can you be demanded?
Right. Amygdala couldn't even kick in.
Right. Well, how can you be
Not at
demanded to just calm down? Just calm down. It's going to be all right. I don't know you, and you're talking about taking me away. I don't know you. And I've been taught my whole life not to go with strangers. And here you are, a stranger, demanding with a badge and a gun that I go with you. It's got to be terrifying.
And police officers really have to stop further traumatizing and re-traumatizing children, because it's traumatizing and stressful enough to be removed from your home, your comfort zone. And then I have seen it more times than not, because there are a lot of people in my family who have become foster parents just because they've heard of the horrors within the foster system. And they know they can't touch every kid, but they're like, the ones that we can, they're going to have a great home. Like when my dad married my stepmom, 2 of their foster kids were included in the wedding. We have a rule in my family, and Jillian knows this. When you cross the threshold, you're family, period. Doesn't matter if you're here for 5 minutes or 50 years. But a lot of cops, soon as they hear foster child, they assume there's something wrong with that child. And it's like, this is not juvenile detention.
Right.
Yep.
This is a child whose parents could have passed away, and both of the parents were only children, because I've seen this scenario, and there's no family that they know that's close that they can go to. There have been children whose parents have been stricken with disease or an illness and can take care of them. Everything isn't an abuse situation, and everything isn't, this is a bad child. But this goes back to training, knowing how to be compassionate and just being human. Stop getting a badge and acting as if humanity is no longer part of your makeup. And if you're a sociopath, you're supposed to be a serial killer, not a cop.
Right.
Well,
it's easier to be a sociopath when you're a cop.
Well, they'll be quick to give us mental evaluations. They'll be quick in court to say, oh, you need a mental evaluation. And that's not to see if you can stand trial. No, they've already got their idea made up on what's going to happen to you. They know how much they can get away with, in my opinion. So why are police not subject to the same level of scrutiny? Why are they not given mental evaluations every 6 months? And when I say that, I mean, there are very specific tests that psychologists and psychiatrists give to people who maybe are bipolar or schizophrenic, it's just there's a certain set of tests that take around 6 to 8 hours. You don't do it all in one day because they also want to monitor what your appearance is when you show up. How well rested are you? Are you early? Are you late? And then they ask you a series of verbal questions, and then you also have a bunch of bubble in the answer questions. And those questions don't decide whether you're bipolar or schizophrenic or any litany of mental disorders. But what they do is they put you on a spectrum, because it's 2021. We have so much research about where someone would sit in relation to, say, a Jeffrey Dahmer or a normal guy walking down the street who has paranoid schizophrenia. We have so much research now in 2021. This isn't 91. This is 30 years later. We have so much research that lends an aid to where we fall on this spectrum, and why police officers aren't subject to that same level of scrutiny on a regular basis. It bothers me. It bothers me personally. And I think that we could do better as a community, and as cities, as whole entities, because it's not the police and the mayor run this city. It is the community runs this city. And that's always been my thing. We run this city. Without us, you don't make money. You don't get anything without us. Nobody's going to work your football game on a Sunday if the community is not involved. No one's going to pay for an expansion or, as you said before, cover the tab on police brutality without us.
Exactly.
It's out of our pocket every time. And who is the communities that suffer the worst? The low-income areas, which tend to be heavily populated with low-income whites, people of color, Hispanic, Latinos, and a lot of people who have mental issues or mental incapacities or disabilities also have to live in these areas, because a lot of times they're on disability, they're unable to work, so they can only afford what they can afford. And in my opinion, they deserve decent housing regardless of what is going on in their brain. They deserve access to free healthcare. They deserve access to government centers, not necessarily government, but community centers, excuse me. There's so many things that we can do. I mean, I can go on and on about this. But the police need to be held to the same level of scrutiny that you are held to at your job daily. If you mess up, you're probably getting fired. It's a right to work state.
Yep.
So if you don't want to work and do your job right, goodbye. Hit the road, Jack. We don't need you. The other thing I think we need to do away with, and I know I'm going back a little bit, but police unions, as well as police PR firms, the people who run the ad campaigns for the police need to be gone. Why is my tax dollar paying to make my overseer or my oppressor? Why am I paying to make my oppressor look good on screen? Why?
And isn't it ironic that every other type of union across the United States, there's pushback from? There are companies that go to great lengths to make sure unions aren't there, but the police union is protected?
Mm-hmm.
And the police shouldn't need, they're public servants. They don't need PR. They need psychologists and sociologists and educators to get in there. And if we can have the Better Business Bureau to let you know what businesses are good and not, how come we don't have a ranking system for the police so that when we're looking for a place to move, we know how good that police department is. We know if they're harassing people. We know if they've murdered anyone. We know if virtually every death that has occurred has gone unsolved. And from that, Cass, let's segue into the case that you are very familiar with. And I will give you the floor and let you give some background information before we get deeper into it.
Absolutely. So this is a case that's very near and dear to my heart. I had someone reach out to me and ask me to take a look at this case. Within 5 minutes of hearing these horrible, horrible details, I knew what I had to do. The case that I'm speaking about, the young man's name is Marquise Martin, Marquise Mack. Everybody calls him Mac Daddy. And I get really happy when I hear that, because even today at work, there's something that his mother told me. She said, "Money making Mac." That was what everybody called him. Money making Mac. And today I was tired at work, and I've been so close to this case that at times I feel like he's right there with me. And I was like, nah, money making Mac. Money making Mac wouldn't give up. And so it kind of gave me what I needed to push through the rest of the day. I spoke with his mom last night, and she was talking to me about how he was big on his boots, and he was big on buying nice work boots. And even when they would fall apart, he would say, "No, Mom, there's still a little bit more work in those boots." And I think it's just important to understand the kind of person that we're talking about before I go into ultimately his horrible, horrible murder and demise. Mac was from Monticello, Arkansas. He worked 2 jobs, sometimes 3. He worked at the local school there, and he worked with autistic children. He was so loved at his school that when he was missing, and then when they ultimately discovered him murdered, there were kids who said, "I'm not going to school unless Mac is there. Unless Mr. Mac is there, I'm not getting on that bus. I'm not going." He was a great, great father. That's all he wanted to do was make money and take care of his family. He would drive. Everybody bragged about it. He drove an old white Geo, like an old vehicle. Made a lot of noise. His mom said that car sounded like a tractor, but the women would flock to him. You know, they would just love him because he embodied the whole thing about it's the driver, it's not the car. And that's something I think we all can take away from. He's got the most beautiful and biggest smile I've ever seen. I can see it in my mind's eye right now. I've also spent a lot of time on this case, so I really try to get to know who I'm working with and who I'm speaking about, because it's a lot of people try to demonize Black men whenever anything happens to them. They like to dig up, well, this is what he did in middle school. Like, that matters. Like, all of us don't have something we did in our past. Get out of here. It's about the man you were when you were living as a man. He was an excellent example in his community. There's a video of him if you guys want to check it out. It's on the Marquise Martin page and Justice for Marquise Martin on Facebook. It's a video of him, takes his camera and he holds it up, and he's in a shirt and tie, slacks, button down. He goes, "Guys, this is what a man should look like. This is what a man should look like when we go out into the world. Present yourselves well. Be the best version of yourself." Moving into the case. So Marquise Martin went missing February 9th of 2020. He was missing for 28 days. He was found in a shallow creek on March 7th of 2020. That's also the same day that Breonna Taylor was killed. I say that because it's important to understand that Mac's case, in the middle of George Floyd, in the middle of the riots, and in the middle of Breonna Taylor's killing and her murder at the hands of the police, his case got lost. Now, do I think that's the only reason his case got lost? No, I don't. Because this is another example of police abusing their power. Marquise Martin, as I said, went missing on February 9th. His mother knew, everyone in the town knew. He was last seen at a gas station there in town. And another elderly gentleman who was also recently released from prison, who is not a great guy, said that he took Mac home to his house. And later on recanted that statement. On February 10th, his mother put out a missing persons report on that Monday. On Tuesday, when Mac didn't show up to the school where everyone loved him, everyone knew something was really, really wrong, because it was unlike Mac to not be where he said he was going to be. As I told you before, he was money-making Mac. He was focused on providing for his son. He was focused on being a good father. His mother tells me that every time she needed something, Mac was there. No questions asked. And not only her, but all of his friends. He was beloved in his community. He really was. There's a bit of a timeline that might be confusing, but I'm going to lay it out either way. As I said, he went missing on February 9th. February 10th, no one heard from him. February 11th, no one had heard from him. On February 11th, Marquise's mother requested that search dogs and helicopters be put up so that they could help track Mac down. The town, Monticello, is about 9,456 people, I believe. Very small town. The sheriff in that town, his name is Mark Gober, Gober. Mark Gober's got a tight fist on that town. Everybody knows everybody, and I know that Mark Gober knows what was going on. It is alleged and speculated at this point in time that his sons and their friends were involved in Marquise's murder. I want to give a trigger warning because the things I'm about to say about what happened to him are no joke. And I don't say them lightheartedly. It brought me a lot of personal anguish. But I just want to give a trigger warning. On February 11th, Sheriff Mark Gober's son, Noah Gober, put a Snapchat out. And that Snapchat was of a stuffed animal, a big brown monkey sitting on a couch. And the caption in the Snapchat said, "Can I help you?" And then the N-word. It wasn't funny. It was spelled out exactly how it shouldn't be, with a hard R. There's no joke about it. It made me sick to see that. If you look in the picture, if you look to the left of the bear, wrapped in blankets, you can see the outline of a young black man's face. Why the sheriff's son put that out is beyond me, although we all have some good ideas. The word on the street is that, and this still needs to be confirmed with DNA testing, but there was a man by the name of Ben Lovelace who is friends with Noah Gober and their family. Ben Lovelace was seeing a girl, and I'm going to leave her name out of it, out of protection for her and this child, because it'll make sense in a moment. Ben Lovelace was seeing another white girl. Ben is white. This girl is white. Marquise was a black man, 26 years old. Marquise started seeing this girl. As I told you, everybody loved Mac. So while Ben was locked up, Marquise got this young woman pregnant. I say young, but not like underage, no funny stuff. Just she was just younger. I'm 35, so she's just younger. Everybody's younger than me at this point. But he fathered a baby with this girl, and she was pregnant. Ben said when he got out of prison, he was going to get Marquise. So on the 11th of February, that Snapchat went out with the picture of Marquise inside Noah Gober's RV trailer. That same night, Lakeisha, Mac's mom, was sent a ransom note that said, "We have him. Give us $7,000 and a few other things." I don't have it all right in front of me. But it was sent to her as well as another of one of Mac's closest friends. It just seems awfully coincidental that those two things would come up immediately after Mac was missing. Obviously, the second that information came in, Mac's mother gave that to the sheriff. At that time, not really knowing for sure whether or not Mac was missing or dead, she was holding hope, as every mother does. And at that point in time, the sheriff stopped talking to her for a week. We have the text receipts of where she texted him every day, called him every day, asking what's going on with the case. Why won't you get dogs? Why won't you get the helicopters I've been looking for? Mark Gober and his deputies basically circumvented normal, protocol. They denied the family dogs. They denied the family helicopters, and they actually sent the family to go look in other areas of Monticello where Mac wasn't. He sent his deputies to the area where Marquise was later found. There are multiple documents, both spoken on video as well as written, where the sheriff admitted to searching that area at least 6 or 7 times with no results. Fast forward 27 days later, and Mac is found with a gunshot wound to the back of the head. The streets, and this is a trigger warning once again, the streets are also saying that his fingers were cut off. Teeth were pulled from his mouth. He was castrated, hung,
Take your time. Take your time.
and then subsequently shot in the back of the head. That's really upsetting. I'm sorry, but we're going to push through it. That's what Mac would want.
Take your time. Breathe if you need to.
I hear you. They tortured him. They tortured him. This was more than just a random killing. So as all this evidence comes up and as these things are presented to the sheriff just says, no, it's a rumor, it's a lie. And what's most concerning is that the sheriff and his family have launched an all-out smear campaign against them, against their family. Online, ridiculing them. Noah Gober has since been shipped off to Alaska to work on his family's pipeline. Rain Gober was sent to rehab. There was another guy, Joe Rutledge Jr., who is alleged to have been there and actually served the fatal blow, a gunshot to the back of the head. And I'm saying this. I'm not even in Arkansas. I've never been to Arkansas. I'm never going to go to Arkansas. So how do I know all these things? If I know these things, everyone in the town knows those things. And there are people in that town who are too afraid to speak out against the sheriff. The sheriff has used his power to hold an entire community hostage. And use Mac as an example. It's really, really concerning when we have these types of people in power, like you were saying. What does active policing look like? What does proper community policing look like? When you have sheriffs in these small towns who run around like they're gods, and they're not, or like they're kings, and they're not. It's come out that shortly after Mac was murdered and discovered, they said that he was found slumped over a log in this shallow creek, that people had been down this road many, many times in that 28 days. And it's not that far off the road, and it's not that big of a creek. Nobody ever saw him. But he had gunshot residue on the back of his head. And I'm saying, as you all know, black men's hair, if you don't keep up with it, it gets real, real dry. He had gunshot residue on the back of his hair, and he had blood stippling from the shot. If he was in the water, as the sheriff alleges, that wouldn't be there still. When they found Marquise's body, the person who found the body was the sheriff's ex-wife's son, stepson. So it's all kind of in this little family unit, if you will. The sheriff himself transported Marquise's body to the funeral home where the autopsy was done. And the autopsy apparently was completed totally in 2 hours. They have no caliber of bullet. They don't have any information on what type of weapon or gun would have been used, which is odd, very odd. And this is the part that really gets me. I know that you as a mother and others who are watching will understand. Keisha, Mac's mother, was denied access to the body. She was never allowed to view her son's body. She was never allowed to eat. She doesn't even know right now as we speak. She doesn't even know if he's in that casket. The sheriff made, I guess, what they call an order that she was not allowed to open that casket. And the reason they gave her was, well, it's too horrible, it's too graphic. There's a lot of other information that arguably could be presented as speculation that I'm not going to go into because I cannot verify it, although it is what the streets are saying. If anyone is interested, you are more than welcome to check out Mac's, what you would call memorial page or celebration page. His closest family are the ones speaking about that. And whereas, yes, I do know them, yes, we speak often, I do not feel that it is my place to speak for them. And I'm here only to help promote and get his story out there. Because if there's just one other person who goes unnoticed, I can't live with myself. And I hope that everyone feels that way. But you can go and look up Marquise Marquis, Martin, on Facebook. You will see his beautiful face. You can go look at Justice for Marquise, also on Facebook, and you can see everything that they're talking about. You can see the messages where the sheriff mocks Marquise's mother. You can see where the sheriff's wife mocks Marquise's mother, and it's almost as if they are, flipping their tongue at them. You can't get us. We got your son. And they just keep denying it. There's some positive things that have taken place in the past couple of days that I think we should, and she and I, we prayed about it. We spoke about it. We gave thanks for the Lord working through certain things that I think are important to recognize. I don't want to end on just this negative note, because this family is full of hope and they are determined to get justice for Mac, as we all are. She spoke with the NAACP. Mac is now on the list of 47 people who have been killed in the state of Arkansas by police brutality. Now, ask yourself this. If they don't know what happened to him, why is he on that list? That's almost evidence right there in unspoken words. If the NAACP is saying he was killed at the hands of the police, they don't do that. It's not a light thing that they do. And that's their local chapter there out of Little Rock. But that's one thing. We are pushing. We have a petition going right now to have Mark Gober removed as the sheriff and to step down and have a larger agency come in and investigate this fully, investigate his sons. There are other cases. Benjamin Washam was another young white kid who went missing and drowned while he was swimming with the Gober sons. All of these things are coming to light. And as I like to say, and there's a lot of information that we'll be releasing about that soon. We can always talk about that at a later time. But as we like to say in our group of people is that everything that's done in the dark will come to light. Well, we are that light. It is our job. It is incumbent upon us as a community to be the light and put these people in the spotlight for their crimes or their wrongdoings or their injustices, even if the sheriff and his family are not involved in this murder. And that's an even if, because we always have to keep a level head. Even if they're not, there are so many civil rights infractions. There are so many investigatory issues that took place. This family is looking to raise money to sue the city, to sue the county, to sue the sheriff's office for their lack of investigation. 2 weeks ago, they had a young white boy go missing. Unfortunately, he was found dead. They had dogs and helicopters up the next day. Tell me that's not two different worlds we're living in. It's undeniable. So.
And unfortunately, stories such as this happen far too often. And this story, and part of the reason why this is just the beginning of us covering this story, this is just the beginning of us shedding light on this tragedy. Those that have watched me for a while, you all know I'm like an incessant dog with a bone. I'm not letting go till I get through to the marrow and I devour the marrow. Is extremely similar to yet another story that I've been covering, where the mother was denied access. Unfortunately, her son wasn't even put in a casket. She was forced to have him cremated. Small town cops seem to be absolutely the worst. This is not Mayberry. They have turned into tyrants. And part of it, and I cannot stress this enough, is that there are people who worship cops, that will give them the excuses that they need, that will gaslight the public, that will cover up not only for officers, but their children. Because if you pay close attention, anyone that is adjacent to a cop feels like they have carte blanche to do anything. I have a brother that's a police officer. Many people ask why I've never had him on the show. We don't get along. Not so much because he's a cop, but he does stand with that blue line. And morally and ethically, I don't care how long we've known each other. I don't care how related we are. Right is right and wrong is wrong. Now I know. Hold on, let me explain this to the viewers. I wanted this conversation to progress the way that it did for a multitude of reasons. Because situations like this need to cease, and the only way it's going to cease is comprehensive police reform and a shift within society. And in my research and my little 44 years on the planet, a shift in society occurs when you continuously throw the facts and the hard truth in the face of society. When society can no longer stick their head in the sand and pretend like these things don't happen. Where people can stop going, well, I didn't see it in my neighborhood, but I'm showing you what's happening in other neighborhoods. Also, we need a united front. Social media is an incredibly powerful tool. You get enough people talking about it on social media, the news can't ignore it, politicians can't ignore it, attorneys can't ignore it. Grassroots movements have changed. It's no more just beating the pavement. So like I said, this will be the first in several. When the family is ready, they will be here as well. Don't ever think, viewers, that I bring on quote unquote representatives. You all that know that not to be true. But stories like this, as a mother and as a mother of color, when we say we fear every time anyone in our family leaves the house, this is what we mean. So stop telling us that we're over exaggerating. Stop telling us about all the great experiences that you have with police officers. Stop telling us, oh, well, I grew up and my favorite friend and my neighbor was da 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 da. Ask us about that experience in that neighborhood, that experience with that cop you love so much. Ask us about the family members that didn't make it home. Ask us about the family members that we still don't know what happened to them to this day. Because everything is not rosy. The United States brands itself as an amazing, wonderful place, but it has yet to live up to its branding.
That's right. To touch on what you were saying before about the community taking back power, I want to just tell you, this happened yesterday. The same people I was speaking about, Sheriff Gober, he's very upset that we are rattling the cages. He's very upset that Miss Lakeisha has more people behind her than she ever had before. He's mad. He's madder than a hornet. He tried to drive up and pull up on Marquise's cousin. Basically like his brother, they were raised together. They pulled up on him, and his friends pulled out their cell phones and immediately started recording him. And he said, oh, that's how you're going to do me now? That's how you're going to do me? And he just looked at him and said, I'm not doing anything. And he smiled. And in my heart, when he told me that story, my heart was full of joy for a small victory. And in that moment, the community was given back their power. In that moment, the sheriff got in his car and left. He left because we are putting the power back into the community. We're no longer going to stand for it. And for any of the viewers, I just want to say this. If you have the same skin tone as me, it is incumbent upon you. And I want to look right at the camera and say, it is incumbent upon anyone who looks like us to end what people who look like us started. We have to. We have to.
That part right there. And I wanted to ask a favor of everyone who's watching this live and everyone that will watch this as it stays up. If you're on Facebook, do me a favor. Tag your local news station. Tag Marquise's memorial page. Tell them how you feel about it. If you're on Instagram, you can put up a screenshot. If you're on Twitter, do the same thing. Tell them. And if you're on TikTok, share the story. Share it and speak on it. Because the more that we rattle the cage, the more the bad apples get shaken out of it. And I don't know about you, but I like my apples fresh and ripe.
Amen.
Also, once we conclude, know that none of my videos go down. So I don't care if it's today, tomorrow, or the next day. This isn't about ratings. This isn't about subscribers. This isn't about views. If I was worried about that, I would probably pay for views and marketing and everything else. Share this. Share it wherever you can. Let people know. Also, if you have the opportunity in your own neck of the woods, figure out what you can do to keep your neighbors safe. Whether it's keeping your cell phone in your hand, whether it's holding block parties to actually get to know your neighbors. If it's keeping a list of non-emergent numbers, should you see your neighbors being harassed. Learn who is problematic around you and warn your neighbors. I'm not saying plaster it up like they do on Law and Order SVU, but let people know how to be safe and where to be safe. And if you're like me, let the neighborhood kids know that your home is a safe zone. If they need to run there, foster child, adoptive child, biological child, be there. Be that standalone. But as we conclude, I would love to have my final thoughts from my panel. And once again, thank you both immensely for joining me this evening and going through this quite difficult topic and being willing and open to do so. But Jillian, let's start with you with your final thoughts.
First off, I just want to say I never heard Mr. Martin's story. I've been over here trying to hold it together because, as you know, I got kids, I got young boys.
Breathe, take
I
your
always
time.
get the comments. They're just phenomenal kids, and I cannot fathom being in a small town where everyone knows and everyone's scared. Like it really, geez,
Take your time,
I'm
breathe.
gonna do what I can. I don't know exactly what it is I can do. I'm not a college educated woman. I am a low level city worker, single mother of four. But whatever I can do, which is a share, it's a voice, I talk a lot. I talk at work. We talk about meaningless things. We talk about great things. We talk about changing things, and nobody does it. So I think I'm kind of at a point where it's time to hit the ground. And like I said, I don't have any community ties to anyone important or effective, but I think it's about time that in my community, I need to make sure that I'm seen.
Chili
I'm
Bean,
seen.
hold on a
I'm
second, baby.
seen.
Let me cut you off real quick because one thing we don't do on this show is downplay ourselves. Now, I've known you too long for you to sit up here in front of these people and tell them that you just low level this and that. No, you are not. I have watched you persevere, I have watched you rebuild, I've watched you literally pick yourself up from the bootstraps, and I've watched you encourage a many of people. And remember when I lived further away and you said, you know what, I'm going to do this for X, Y, and Z. And we went and got supplies and you drove 2.5 hours
I did.
both ways just to make sure some other people had a smile on their face. You've already been doing it. And as far as ties, baby, you know me, so I got you. But what we're not going to do today, tomorrow, or the next day is downplay ourselves. You have raised some amazing, beautiful, talented children. You are amazing, beautiful, and talented, because I remember when you wanted a career change and things were not easy, but you made it look easy. I know every time somebody is down and needs a shoulder, you are right there no matter what else is sitting on your back. So that's no, we're not. No, we're not. We are not going down ourselves. You understand me? Because you are beautiful. You are royalty. You are special. Say it. Say, I am special.
Thank you. I am special.
I am beautiful.
My bad. I
Say,
am
I am
beautiful.
beautiful. I am royalty.
I
See,
am royalty.
thank you. See, thank you.
Look. Thank you, Mama, for putting me back in check. Wait a minute. Okay, here we go.
Yeah, don't forget, I'm only
Uh,
across the bridge. Don't make me, I will take the show on the road. These folks will watch me drive across the bridge to come get you.
don't, don't come get me. Don't come get me.
I mean, I'm gonna have to bring a
Okay.
step stool because we all know you taller than me. Don't let me fool y'all
Let me
because
tell you
I be
about
sitting
that.
on pillows and stuff. I'm serious.
But yeah, so I see in me what I have to do. And it starts small. Like I used to have a nice connect with the mayor because of my job title, but currently ain't in office no more. And I don't know this new dude. I don't even know. I'm sorry, y'all. I don't do politics. I follow my heart and I go with my spirit. So I go with those. But I know for one, money making Max will be a tagline on my page for sure. I never heard the story. I never heard the story, and it kind of did like get shadowed with Breonna Taylor. And I'm not taking away from anybody, so please don't lynch me. But it just I know it's probably a lot of people who don't know. So I'm gonna get it together. Um, Mr. Clay, if you have like some printout um petitions, you got city workers for life. And I will collect signatures and I'll send them to the page. I encourage everybody to look in your community and see where you can change. Like every community has a leader, and we need to start talking to them. Quit putting your head in the sand. Time to stand up. It's not gonna fix itself.
Agreed. And actually, you know what, Jillian, you make a great point. Whether we do it digitally or we print them out and have people, if you're willing to do that, there's a discussion segment on this page.
Hmm.
There's also the email address for this page. It's asktaz77@gmail.com. Drop me an email,
Okay.
send your email. I will put together a Zoom call for Friday evening, and we can all come together and we can have collective plans for our little hubs all over the country as to how we can help Money Making Mac as we move forward and continue to get the word out.
Amen. Thank
Yeah,
you.
because
So see,
Mr.
there you
Frank
go,
said he wasn't
Jillian. You
going to
all right?
Arkansas. Jillian gonna drive. I can talk to my union and get 40 hours, and I'll be out.
And you remember what Max said? It's about the driver. It ain't about the car.
Mm-hmm.
Amen to that.
You know?
And your final thoughts, Cass?
First and foremost, I just want to thank you for having me on to begin with. As I said, I don't speak for the family, but I have to speak in favor of and to help promote their mission and what has now become my mission, and now what I hope becomes everybody's mission. Jillian and Miss Taz, what I tell everybody is I promised Miss Lakeisha that we would get Max face coast to coast because that's what it's going to take. So no matter how big or how small, it doesn't matter how many followers you have. It doesn't matter if you have any followers at all. Each individual person who has signed that petition is a human being. That's a real person. And none of them are more important than the rest. Everyone is beautifully important. So I just ask that everybody, and even Ms. Taz, I'll send you the link. We can post it if you could,
Definitely.
to the change.org. Everyone's welcome to sign. As I was saying before, we've gotten over 5,000 signatures in 5 days. Mac has moved in the spirit world through all of us, and he's going to continue. He's brought us together. I truly believe that. His mother believes that. And I just hope that everybody can put themselves in this man's shoes. As you were saying before, Jillian, I will never be able to understand that fear, but I can understand it. And it's my responsibility to try my best to understand it. But I hope that everyone understands that where there is one, unfortunately, there are many, many more whose voices who've been silenced. So even if it's as simple as turning to your coworker at work, which I did today, we're sitting at lunch, everybody's talking about meaningless, small talk type stuff. And I said, hey, you do me a favor. You sign this petition for me. And all three of those people did. I don't know what their political affiliation is. I don't know anything about them. It's my second day at work. And I asked, would you please sign this petition? And I just let them read it. I can't verbalize that at my job. I'm not trying to get in trouble for speaking about such graphic things at work. But they read it. And there is a palpable, real emotion that comes out. And you feel compelled to act. And one of the biggest things I've learned through being active in my community and active in protesting is that there are no small roles in the revolution. You can be in the streets carrying a sign. You can be making phone calls. But it's also important, everybody, to remember that you have to foster a safe environment for conversation. People who look like me need to learn to open their ears and hearts and shut our mouths and listen. That's the most important thing that you could do for anyone in this situation. As you were saying, Ms. Taz, people have to listen. So, I mean, in conclusion, I just ask everybody, if you would please go visit those 2 pages, sign the petition, get invested, because if any one of us is enslaved or abused, that's all of us. It's just a matter of time until it's the rest of us. So with that being said, I just want to thank you for having me on. And I hope that this is the first of many times to come. So.
I'm humbled that you agreed to come on here. And like I said, share so open and honestly. Same with you, Jillian. It's definitely the first of more to come. Like I said, I'm a dog with a bone until I devour the marrow. So you've got me right there beside you so we get justice.
Amen.
And I'm extremely patient because I'm still fighting for justice for Breonna Taylor because for some reason I don't believe in sleep.
Nope.
But once again, thank you both. Thank you incredibly. Thank you all for tuning in and watching. And like I said, give me about 30 minutes. I will also put the petition link in my link tree, which is across all platforms. And I will also post it directly to my TikTok and my Facebook. And as always, each one teach one, each one reach one. Good evening.